الحمد لله الخافض الرافع سبحانه حجب الجن عن غيبه بعد أن كان لهم في السماء مواضع. سبحانه أنزل القرآن نورا يتلى فإذا الناس محجوب وسامع، فإذا قرئ على العليل ذهبت عن جسمه المواجع، وإذا استمع له الحزين هان في عينيه كل ضائع. نحمده تبارك وتعالى على كل حال وواقع، ونسأله أن يحفظ علينا العقول والأبصار والمسامع. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله جعل في السماء بروجا والنجوم لها مواقع، ومن الرياح لواقع، ومنها المدمر ذو الفظائع، وفي البحار أمواج مهلكات، وفيها الياقوت اللامع، وفي الأرض صخر وحجر ومدر، ومنها الجوهر اللامع، ومن النبات حلو ومر، ومن السموم نواقع، ومن الدواب وحوش كاسرات، ومنها ركاب ومنافع، ومن الناس أهل للمعروف ومنهم في الشر ضالع. أمور حارت البرية فيها، فالحق إنما هو الصادع. وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله الذي أقض للمشركين المضاجع، ولد يتيما فقيرا فزهدت فيه المراضع، وشب عفيفا كريما وأترابه في اللهو مراتع. دانت الدنيا لغيره وأتحفته هو بالمواجع. رعى الأغنام صغيرا وعمل في التجارة أجيرا، فظهر من بركته البدائع. سجد للأصنام قومه والحق في صدره لما يعبدون منازع، فامتلأ حراء بتأمل منه وتحنف لله ضارع. ففاجأه الأمين بقوله اقرأ فأنت بالحق صادع، فعاد يرجف فؤاده من الخوف. والله لن يخزيك الله أبدا، فأنت في الخيرات بارع، صادق وأمين واصل ورحيم وللمعروف زارع. إنه رسول الله محمد. صلت عليك ملائكة الرحمن وسرى الضياء بسائر الأكوان، لما أقبلت على الوجود مزودا بحمى الإله وراية القرآن. ثم أما بعد، فحياكم الله وبياكم وأبقاكم عوامل رفع لهذه الأمة، وحياكم وحيا الحيا منكم إذ انجلى وجوها. أسأل الله العلي العظيم أن يجمعنا يوم القيامة في مستقر رحمته وتحت لواء محبته، وأن يجمعنا بنبيه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. All praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and we seek His refuge, and also we bear witness that there is no God worthy of our worship except Him. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger of Allah. My brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome back to another gathering, another celebration of the weekly Eid of Muslims. Another welcome, also special welcome for my brothers and sisters in Islam who try to get the effort more and more, even if they are living longer and more distant than our masjid. As I can see, people, mashallah, came from different cities around our city. I ask Allah to bless them and to bless their efforts. Allahumma ameen. My brothers and sisters in Islam, it is the time that we learn and we charge our batteries, our hearts, and we feed our souls when it comes to the teachings of Islam from the Quran and from the Sunnah of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to invite all of you today to visit one of the chapters of the Quran. It is the chapter of the Prophet Yusuf. And specifically, we want to learn one lesson from his father, the Prophet Yaqub. As we know, one of the titles of Yusuf, that he is Al-Karim, Ibn al-Karim, Ibn al-Karim, Ibn al-Karim. He is the noble, the son of noble, the son of noble, the son of noble person or prophet. He is Yusuf, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Ibrahim. He is from the descendants of the prophets of Allah. And yet, we wanted to focus on one of the scenes of the surah. And you know, Prophet Yaqub had lost his son. And he cried a lot. And he was in a state of sadness after his brothers had plotted against him. And they throw him into the well. Then he was taken to be sold as a slave in Egypt. Then eventually he was seduced by the wife of the lady, the wife of the king, or the wife of Al-Aziz. And then eventually he was taken to jail as a punishment for something he never done. At that time, as we know, the story goes on and on and on with lots of the details. Yusuf alayhi salam, after 30 years from the incident of the well, now he is in a position that he is in control, in the charge of the ministry of food in the government in Egypt. And at that time, he tried to drag his brothers to keep one of them on his side so he can bring the rest of the family. At that time, Sayyidina Yaqub was so sad. And you can say he was living the most desperate moment of his life. He lost Yusuf 30 years ago, and again he lost another son, Benjamin. And at that time, his children were about to go back to Egypt. And he said that statement. And that's my khutbah for today. He said, Ya baniya, idhabu fatahassasu min Yusufa wa akhi, wa la tay'asu min rawhillah, innahu la yay'asu min rawhillah illa al-qawm al-kafirun. He said, my children, I want you to go get any news about Yusuf and his brother, and do not give up hope in the mercy of Allah. Do not lose hope. Do not give up in the mercy of Allah. Surely those who are disbelievers are the only people who are losing hope in the mercy of Allah. Look at that statement. His family, the rest of the family, they said, what are you saying? Yusuf, now we are searching for Benjamin, and still you mention Yusuf after 30 years? قالوا تالله تفتأ تذكر يوسف حتى تكون حرضا أو تكون من الهالكين. Are you going to mention Yusuf always? Every time you say Yusuf, 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 you will be crazy. You are going to destroy yourself. You became blind because you are crying of Yusuf. And still, after 30 years, you are talking about Yusuf? What did he say? قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. He said, I only complain, I only cry for Allah, not for you. And I know from Allah what you do not know. Go, search, and be optimistic. Search for Yusuf after 30 years. That's actually a good lesson for all of us. Being optimistic. Thinking positively. Negating the bad attitude, the bad intention. Removing the bad thought from your mind and being a good person who is always thinking positively. It is part of our deen. It is part of our Islam. The Sahaba, 14 centuries ago, said about Rasulullah in his description, and Imam al-Bukhari had narrated this, had delivered this. كان رسول الله يعجبه الفأل الحسن. Rasulullah, he liked. Rasulullah used to like the good and positive thinking. Being optimistic. That is part of our deen. And look at what happened. If you follow the story of Yusuf, you will discover that eventually he sent Yusuf, has sent his t-shirt to his father. So that would be the miracle for his eyesight to get restored. And what is so amazing here, when the caravan came to the borders of the city, and Yaqub in his house, he jumped out of his place, and he said to the family, and he is blind, he said, Inni la'ajidu riha Yusuf, and now I can smell the smell of Yusuf. They said again, Yusuf, you became crazy. And short time, the caravan arrived, and one of his children came and he put the t-shirt over his face, and Allah restored his eyesight. Then he looked at the family and he said, "Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you that Allah will never let me down? Didn't I tell you that I know from Allah what you do not know?" That is actually the attitude that we need to have as Muslims nowadays. When your wife complains about money and you say, "Just let's have some patience and let's make a dua to Allah. And when Allah sends rizq to you, tell her, didn't I tell you? Make a dua to Allah." When your child is sick, but you have a good thought about Allah, that he will be cured, then you can tell your child, "Didn't I tell you? Allah will never let us down." Look at Rasulullah Muhammad, the most horrific moment in his life, in the cave, while he is surrounded by 40 killers, wanted to cut his neck with his friend Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. How was his response? "La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana." Do not be sad. Do not be sad. Do not get panic. Allah is with us. When sometimes you cannot pay your bills, or get some groceries, or have some difficulties, remind yourself, do not get sad. Allah is with us. Even when it comes to the religion, I understand the mentality. I understand how big is the sadness in our hearts regarding what we are seeing happening to our brothers and sisters and kids in Gaza. And now we can add Lebanon, we can add Syria, we can add Iraq, we can add many of those who are under persecution and injustice, oppression, tyranny. I understand what we feel psychologically, but let me tell you this hadith that could give you my message today. At the early days of da'wah, the Sahaba were persecuted. They were dragged. They used to drag them to the heat of the sun on the sand to give them the lashes after lashes. And they used to beat them up severely. They used to cut them into pieces to let them disbelieve in Allah. And they used to pass by Rasulullah. And they used to tell him that statement that I know that every one of you wanted to scream and say the same statement. They used to come to him and they used to say, "Ya Rasulullah, see what they have done for us. See the marks here. See that. See that. Do you know what happened to Bilal? Do you know what happened to Ammar? Do you know what happened to Sumayya? Do you know what happened to the kids? Do you know what happened to the women? Ya Rasulullah, ala tastansir lana." Are you going to ask Allah to give us victory? Aren't you making a dua for us? Ala tastansir lana? Ala tad'u Allah lana? Why you are not making dua for us? Why Allah does not give us victory? So Rasulullah responded to them in a long hadith. But what I wanted to quote, only one line, when he said, "Wallahi, ليتمن الله هذا الأمر حتى يسير الراكب من صنعاء إلى حضرموت لا يخشى إلا الله أو الذئب على غنمه ولكنكم قوم تستعجلون." He said, "I swear by Allah, Allah is going to grant victory to this deen. And this deen is going to expand more and more to the point that the traveler will travel from Sana'a to Hadramaut. He wouldn't fear anybody, any threat, any persecution. He will have no fear for anyone except Allah. But you are always people in rush." That's actually, look at Rasulullah, how he was so optimistic. In a moment that we can consider it the darkest moment in his history, but he still believes in Allah. The Sahaba have learned that from Rasulullah. You know, when they have decided to go Umrah, and they had the ihram on, and they went to the borders of Mecca, the people of Quraysh prevented them. They rejected. They didn't accept them to enter for Umrah. The Sahaba were very sad. And they came to Rasulullah complaining. Rasulullah was giving them the good news. He said, "Be optimistic. There are lots of goodness will come after this." And what we know as it is called the Hudaybiyah Treaty. You know what Allah revealed during that incident? You know what Allah revealed after this dramatical time? When they got rejected for the Umrah, Allah revealed the Surah Al-Fath, the chapter of the conquest. You might say, conquest? They cannot do Umrah, Imam. I know. But Allah is giving them the good news. Be optimistic always. Think positive about Allah. لن يحدث شيء في ملك الله إلا بمراد الله. Nothing is going to happen in the kingdom of Allah without Allah's will. Have this as Iman in your heart. In the battle of the trench, the Sahaba, while they are digging the trench, they have found big rock. They couldn't break it. They called those who have giant muscles to try with the rock. They failed. And you know who broke this rock? Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He got the axe and he hit the first hit. And he said, "Allahu Akbar. I can see that Allah is giving me the keys of Sham. And I can see its Mada'in, giant buildings." Then he broke the first third of the rock from the first hit. The second hit, Allahu Akbar. I can see Allah giving me the keys of Persia. And he broke the second third. Then he hit the third one. And he said, Allahu Akbar. I can see Allah giving me the keys of Yemen. And he broke all the rock. The whole thing. This is Rasulullah. He was never pessimistic. He was always optimistic, thinking good about Allah. Even when you study Quran, Allah is talking to every sinner, and we are all sinners. We don't have angels here amongst the human beings. Nobody is acting like angels. We are not angels. We are sinners. How Allah addressed the sinners in the Quran. Allah said, قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Allah said, and I want you to pay attention, oh my dear servants. Allah is talking to the sinners. Allah said, oh my dear sinners, all those who went transgressors, all those who committed sins, do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah. Surely, no one is forgiving the sins except Him. He is the most forgiving and the most merciful. My message to every brother and sister today, no matter what the difficulty that you are experiencing, whether it's a disease, whether it's physical problem with your family, problem to your children, you have financial difficulty, whether if it is something bigger than this, believe me, you need to be always thinking good about Allah. Allah said in the Qudsi hadith, أنا عند ظن عبدي بي فليظن عبدي بي ما شاء. I am as my servant thinks of me. So you think of Allah whatever you want. If you think of Him, that He is forgiven and He will let you enter Jannah, you will find Him. If you think of Him, that He will take care of you under any condition, and He is always protecting you, you will find Him. And let me remind you of the story that I had mentioned before. A man on the day of judgment will stand before Allah, and according to his deeds, he did nothing. He has lots of bad deeds. Then Allah will say to the angels, take him to Jahannam. Then he will say to Allah, Ya Rab, ما كان هذا ظني بك. I never think of you like that. Then Allah will say to the angels, bring him back. And what did you think of me? Ya Rab, ظننت أن رحمتك تسع عبد مثلي. I have thought that your mercy is so vast, it could encompass somebody like me. Then Allah will say to the angels, He called me by my mercy. Take him to Jannah. Thinking positive, being optimistic, no matter what, is one of the essential teachings of Islam. May Allah fix our lives. And may Allah guide us to the right path. And may Allah bring us all, with no exception, with the Prophet Muhammad in Jannah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة وسلاما على عباده الذين اصطفى. My brothers and sisters in Islam, bringing optimism on the table amongst your family members, and you as a father, you are the leader of the house. You need always to inspire them with the positivity, not negativity. No matter what you are having on your shoulders, still give them hope. Even if one of your children misbehaved or have done something wrong, don't kick him out of the house. Don't tell him you are the worst. Don't tell him there is no hope. Always open the doors for coming back. Always open the door for the second chance. Always try to push them forward, not to pull them back. Always motivate them to be better. Even if they have done wrongs, yes. Even if they committed mistakes, yes. Imam, you don't know what did he make? No matter what, still have open arms. Do not lose hope. And remember Ibrahim, the Prophet Ibrahim. He was almost 110 years and still making a dua, oh Allah, give me a child. He never lose hope in the mercy of Allah. No matter what your child have made, raise your hand and say, oh Allah, guide him. Be optimistic and never lose hope in the mercy of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم وفق طلبة وطالبات المسلمين. اللهم وفقهم في الامتحانات. اللهم يسر لهم السعادة. اللهم يسر لهم السعادة. اللهم وفقهم يا رب العالمين. اشرح لهم صدورهم ويسر لهم أمورهم. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم أمدهم بمدد من عندك. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم واربط على قلوبهم ووحد صفهم وانزع البغضاء من بينهم. اللهم يا ربنا انزع البغضاء من بينهم. اللهم يا ربنا أمدهم بملائكتك. اللهم أمدهم بملائكتك. اللهم أنزل جبريل ومعه 100,000 من الملائكة. آمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. وأقم الصلاة. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله.